Okay,
Got it.
never remember that.
Okay, so, all right. So we are moving along to unfinished business. And so I don't know if people had a chance to read the letter that
Yes.
Tara wrote to Harvey, but it was excellent. And my only question, Tara, is have you heard back from him?
No, I have not.
Okay.
It is an excellent letter, Tara. Very well done.
Thanks.
You know, I had this kind of a conversation with a person the other day. It was a little bit ago, and it was kind of it was sort of inspired by this about Harvey and his concerns. Being you know, we're looking at the broad view and being empathetic and with people, and you know, his concern is real, and it's just you know, in a way at the time. I mean, I feel different ways about it. You know, I mean, my support is easy. There's not really two sides, you know, but it's just my support is really obvious. But then I was starting to think later on, and there was recently, I mean, it's a matter of oversight, and it's good that people understand that there's a process and that there's some oversight, because there is, in fact, occasions where lack of oversight does, you know, cause some harm to people. People have, here in this community recently, you know, not too long ago, people got killed because there was not oversight of things were improperly done, and there was not oversight. And, you know, it just kind of, they're connected because it's government. And that is sort of where, you know, where the rubber meets the road when the high, you know, minded ideals of oversight and being able to see through things. What is it? Transparency. Sorry. But so, I mean, I don't know, there's really two sides about that. You know, the thing that happened with the rec department, with the Parks and Rec department.
Mm.
But anyway, it's just kind of, you know, it's in that realm.
Mhm.
And so so I kind of came later on, and I was thinking about it and talking about it and thinking, you know, well, what a good thing that there is that's damage, you know, it's danger that people are concerned with. That's Harvey's concern. It's danger, you know, and so it's good that there's demonstrated that there's oversight. And it was all, I thought it was great.
Alec, I think that's a really good point, because I think that people feel a lot more comfortable knowing that there is some oversight, but it's not overbearing. It's, I don't know. I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with that completely.
I agree that you have a really good point. But to add to that, when I was reading Tara's attachment about what's happening across the United States with the banning people, questioning and wanting all kinds of things banned from the public, I'm looking at this and going, is this our first test as a library board with Harvey? Anyway, those were my thoughts on that.
What do you
Anybody
mean,
else?
Marilyn? I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean.
Well, because he wanted it taken out, he wanted it banned. And what, if you read Tara's letter,
Mhm.
that's happening across the country and libraries all over. If you don't agree with, if you think it's something that is going to, you know, is against what you like, you don't want anybody else to read it. And that's all anyway. And so
Yeah.
I'm just saying that hopefully this is a one-timer that's this serious, where he wanted us to take the whole series out and burn it or anything like it. Hopefully that's the first one, or it's a test. It's our first test.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on that?
I think Marilyn makes a great point, and that's why I shared that information with you, because challenges have spiked in a big way in the States and in Alaska. There's a situation in Kenai right now where the director, their assembly or council won't let the director accept the grant, the same grant that we got for collections, because they don't want her to have authority to select the items.
Oh,
And there's been a lot of kickback. I mean, it's quite a hot debate in Kenai. It makes their newspaper fairly regularly these days. But it's definitely a climate that's changed from, say, this time last year, changed quite a bit. So we should be aware and prepared for it.
so if the library director does not make the decision on what books to purchase or whatever, who does make the decision?
I think it was in that case, the assembly was thinking maybe they should make that decision.
Ah. Well, hopefully it won't go that far here.
Hopefully.
Man.
Okay, it's just a good thing for us all to be aware of then. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll move on to 7, which is new business. And we're going to discuss the updated guidelines for the art education endowment. And John McKay, because he is the one that established this, can alter the guidelines as presented. And I guess, John, my question is so what, and what was the, how did you decide that you needed to update the guidelines that you gave here?
Well, all along, since it was established, guidelines have been revised 2 or 3 times just because the need was there. Issues came up, and you would look at, and I would look at them, and I'd start rough drafting a few things, and I asked Tara to help me sometimes, and so this is basically the same process. And things would come to mind, and this, for example, one here, one major one in here is you know, what happens to this over time? You know, once I'm gone, you know, we're not all here forever. And well, what happens to this thing? You know, and what if someone, a board gets it that isn't as responsible as the Petersburg Library Board is, in my opinion. And then it could be political football, and then the funds could be diverted, and the guidelines could be changed. And so that was my concern. And so then I started thinking more and more about that. This is just one of the things that's in there, a few more. And so then I drafted something, and I talked to Tara a little bit about it, and some thoughts from her, and then drafted out what I thought would work in terms of what happens in terms of those guidelines, who gets to change them, who doesn't get to change them. But that's kind of an idea of how over time that evolves.
So you just triggered another question, which is what I read it through, but I don't recall seeing in here. What does happen when you aren't with us anymore? Who
Well,
decides?
now Tara, ready. she knows these things better than I do, believe me. She doesn't say that, but I think she does. So what happens basically is that once these are established, they cannot be changed, is the basic idea. And as long as, you know, and while I'm here, of course, they can be changed, but I would be the one empowered to authorize changes and no one else. Within the guidelines, if you're talking about that particular issue, the language is such that the board has a lot of power to make sure that those guidelines as written are followed. And there are consequences for any board, and these are new items in there if you look deeper into it. There are consequences to the board, any board in the future that doesn't follow these guidelines. And if there's a complaint of some sort, there's a process to deal with it. So the idea behind it is that that whatever's in there now, hopefully is strong enough to stay together and be worthy, get the job done. Oh, a busy boy. Hold on a second here. Can I take this just a second? My card's down there. Just 1 second, if we don't mind. Hello?
Tara, which part is it in that, where John is it under dissolution and termination of Petersburg? Or, I mean, like when he isn't with us anymore, who is the person that's in, takes his place?
Nobody takes his place. The guidelines can't change.
Okay,
The responsibility of the director and the board to ensure, and this is under general guidelines. It's like
okay,
it's
okay,
like the fourth point. It's the responsibility of the director and the library board to ensure that the guidelines are followed and violations do not occur. But on the last page where it says dissolution or termination of the Petersburg Public Library, that addresses things like if the assembly makes it an appointed board, that won't fly, and that will lead to the passing of the endowment out of our hands and into the hands of another library. Reducing the number of voting members on the board. Yeah, so those are kind of the protections that are built into this new version.
yeah, I actually thought those were great. Under all those points were really great, and it's, of course, it's not something I think would happen here, that the assembly would dissolve the library board or whatever, but you never know.
No,
I mean,
we don't know.
The Parks and Rec Board was dissolved and then reestablished.
that's right, they were, but they were because they weren't meeting.
Yeah,
And
that's all
so,
it takes. That's really all it takes.
right,
for it to
right.
happen. Yeah.
They weren't meeting and they weren't active as a board, and that's not anything like, I mean, we are, so. How's it going, John?
Oh, yeah, unmute him.
You have to unmute, John.
Boy, when you start,
I'm really a techo nut. Anyway, no, I appreciate it. I'm sorry to interrupt the board meeting, but my car's down at the dealership working on it. And it's a real problem, and I had to get an update, so thank you. Okay. Anyway, so we're, and we were talking about what happens with it. And I was explaining that, the board really has that authority to keep this on track. And if they don't, as far as I know, and Tara, you keep track of me on this, that there are complaints about it. There's a process that would say, get it straight and follow the guidelines, or you're going to lose it. And there's a process of where it goes from there, where those guidelines go to.
Mhm.
and that's where there's a stipulation that the library has to be a small town library. Is that correct? Seems like I
Well,
remember.
yeah, and well, it goes sequential. And when I first started out with it, I did not want to send it. I did not want to send it to a smaller library, just because I wanted to get a library that was well organized and had a history of process, meaning that they had a board meeting, was regular. They followed due process, Robert's Rules of Order. I didn't want to get in a situation where, and there was an elected board. I don't want a situation in some of the small towns, you don't know who's going to show up at the board meeting and who wants to change this or change that. So I just wanted to avoid that. And I hate to do it in a blanket way, because I know there's some fine, librarians out there in small libraries, but I just felt like I had to go with a blanket. And if it ever leaves Petersburg for whatever reason, then I also felt like I wanted to move up the ranks a little bit and get it to a little bit, stay in Southeast, but get it to a bigger library. And that was just to secure the funds and the guidelines for the long term, hopefully.
Well, I hope you feel good about this, because that's really, I mean, when you start going down the what if rabbit hole, it's wow. I mean, geez. I mean, so yeah. So don't give it to Kenai, because they're not. But really, John, I really appreciate what you're doing there, because I mean, it's like trying to give your great grandkids money to go to college. It's like, wow, what a lot of stuff can happen. How do you ever?
Yeah,
It's very well thought out.
yeah. Well, you can pat Tara on the back a few times for that, because there were some real insights over time. When I rough drafted and I discussed it with her, I actually sent her a couple of drafts. Hey, take a peek at this. What do you think? Ideas came back. But in the end, I took her ideas and mine. I actually typed up a whole bunch of this stuff. And she's, again, between the two of us, I think we got a solid document.
I think
Oh.
that's very wise. It's very wise what you did, John. I haven't met you, but it's nice to see your face. I think it's very wise what you did, because as Alex said, when the years go by, your 2, 3, 4 generations from now may not agree with this, but it's in writing and they have to follow it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hope I think like Alex said, you don't have all the answers to everything. So
No.
there may be a crack in the document and somebody can take advantage of it, but hopefully not. And most libraries are not in the business of all the librarians and all the volunteers I've ever met. I've never met one that went to follow the law. I'll put it that way. They didn't steal a half a dozen books and some other things, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, thank you for coming today and kind of explaining your thought process. It means a lot. And again, thank you for all of your contributions. It's really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
Really
Well,
is.
Appreciate it.
Well, I think that, just a quick thought on that. I've always wanted to, and I told Tara this a long time ago. When I first walked in the door of our office, I kind of explained, I just wanted to, some way or other, you always want to give back something a little bit. It's not a bad idea. And that was the thought behind it. And I didn't know how far it was going to go. And I've been fortunate. I feel like I have. And so that's kind of what it was all about. It's a good thing to give back. One way or another, you go shovel your neighbor's walk. It doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't matter. Just to give back something to the community. It makes the world a better place and just makes everything so much better. And you get a lot of pleasure out of it. When Tara, now this doggone COVID it's horrible for this program. You know what I mean? Well, what are you going to do? Let's get the kiddies together and get them all infected. We don't want that. So I understand the situation. And so, she's tried to get the writing work up pretty good. I don't know what the future holds for that. If it's possible to do it, that's wonderful. We'll see how that turns out. So anyway, that's kind of the focus of it. And I've been really, really happy with it. I feel really good when I see people working together and, young people, old people from different political views. It's really nice to see it. Well, that's all.
That's
Yeah,
huge.
Yeah, one really quick, one more thing, one more thing that your contributions have done, I feel like, for our library is I feel like our library is really impressive, everything that it's done, and Tara's so great and all the support we've had. But when you also factor in your endowment and all of your contributions, it makes it that much more robust, where our community takes us more seriously, and the assembly and just our standing, you know what I mean? It just adds to that. It helps ensure longevity, I feel like, for the for the robustness of our program. So so thanks again.
And I wanted to say, John, I'm thankful that you took the time to go over thoroughly and make these guidelines for us. Because now with guidelines, it's a lot easier for our board to deal with people that that feel that their project really, and then we can go, well, it doesn't fit the guidelines, or it does, thankfully. I mean, I don't know, have we ever turned anybody down, Tara? Right.
I would
But
only
it
bring
is,
projects to you that fit the guidelines.
right. So, I mean, it's like, these guidelines are great, and we're so thankful that you did that,
Yeah.
because that makes our job easier. And thank you.
Yeah, and they're there, and Tara and the board members can always peek at them, and while I'm around, if you approve them, that has to be done. But if they're approved as they are, and there's always an opportunity to look at something and say, well, those could be improved. And that process has been fairly easy. I just talked to Tara about it. We rough them out, get them finalized, Tara gets them to the board, and the board talks about it and figures out whether it's going to work for them. So that, those still, as long as I'm around, although I'm not remembering things real well. You better be fast. No, I'm teasing. But anyway, so there are still opportunities to review and change as needed while I'm around. So keep that in mind too.
So luckily they're written down for you too then.
Yeah, you betcha. Yeah.
Anyway, so,
yeah.
okay, so what we need to do now is I need a motion. And then we will discuss if we need any discussion, or if anybody has anything they feel should be removed or not, whatever. So first I'll entertain a motion.
Could I ask a question first, Marilyn?
Sure.
There was a point that wasn't very clear to me. It's probably my limited English, but if anybody could explain it, it's the third point of in case of the dissolution, or when the dissolution would happen. So the Petersburg Public Library Board has a majority appointed board members beyond the next Bureau Public election. What does that mean exactly?
Okay, so third one down.
Yes.
The Petersburg Public Library has a majority of appointed board members beyond the next borough public election that allows voters to elect people to the library board. So what happens is you get 6 people elected. How many? 7 on the board, or 6? Or how many?
7.
7. All right. So over time, because you don't have people willing to serve on the board, you find out that the majority of the board members are board appointed. And then that becomes more of a political football than having the people elect the board members. And I don't like the city council or the borough council picking out who's going to be on the library board. I've seen that in action, and I don't like it. I have seen it in action in Petersburg, and I don't like it. And I want elected board members. And if Petersburg can't get an elected board, I don't want them to have the fun. I want a board that's elected by the people. That's what I
Brilliant.
want. And I think it's really important to me that that happens. I think you get a much better discussion. You get different people coming in. That's the main reason.
It's a
I
good
don't know
one.
if that makes sense. You do, Alicia.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does,
Right.
and it's a very good idea. Thank you for explaining it.
Yeah, okay.
I'd
And
like
also
to-
wanted to thank you for your generosity, like everybody else. It's like
Yeah, you're
really
welcome.
amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
like-
so I'm ready for the motion, please.
I'd like to move that we adopt the Petersburg Public Library Art Education Endowment Guidelines as written.
I second it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So is there any discussion here? Any further discussion, or is there something that somebody would like to change or talk to John more about? Okay, so if you're all comfortable with that, then we will have a vote. And Tara, do we need to have an individual vote, or is it okay just a yes vote by everybody?
Yes, vote by everybody is fine.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. That the Petersburg Public Library Art and Education Endowment Guidelines passed unanimously. And thank you very much, John, for
You
all your
betcha.
hard work, for your contributions to our library. You don't, I mean, every time we get another note from you saying, okay, I know I said last time was the last time, but there's more.
Yeah,
And
you
we're like,
never know.
oh my
You
gosh.
never know. I don't know.
Anyway, thank you so
Betcha.
much.
Thank you guys for your service too. And
Oh,
that's
thank you.
important.
Thank you, John. And I don't know if
Yeah.
you all know, but I'm going to take the Rainforest Writers, Amherst Writers Method training so that I can also facilitate writers groups.
That's good.
Great.
And
Well,
John helped me with the tuition, which was really very kind.
Nice,
betcha.
very nice.
You know, when you have that, you know, I snuck in last time as a visitor from the lower 48. So and I was a little nervous about that because, you know, I'm not in Petersburg, I'm lower 48. But according to the guidelines, they were open enough so that I could sneak in. Lizzie, if you got it, I'll be trying to sneak in the door, okay?
I would love it if you can.
Okay, well, I'm going to probably leave the meeting now. And again, thank you all very much.
Thank you very
John.
much.
Thank you, John.
John, so nice
Bye.
to see
Okay,
you.
thank you, Tara. Thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, John. See you
Okay,
later.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. So
Wow,
we're on new business still, and we're on number B, which is the privacy policy as it relates to children's accounts, which we discussed at the last meeting. And I don't know if anybody had a chance to read it, but I did. It was a good little refresher course for me too, reading that. Does anybody have any discussion about that?
I have a question. Tara, I think it's the second paragraph, it says records of a public elementary or secondary school library identifying a minor child shall be made available on request to a parent or guardian. And then at the bottom of the page, it says parents cannot be given the titles of books their children have borrowed.
That is because elementary or middle school or high school librarian
Uh-huh.
in a high school, elementary or middle school library setting could release the circulation records of a minor. The public library is subject to the law as is stated above that. Basically,
Oh.
school libraries are an exemption. I know it's a little confusing, right? When I
Yeah.
looked at it again, when I was
Yeah.
putting it back, I was like, the way this is, but that's the way the law is written, so I can't fix it. But it's an exemption basically for school libraries.
Oh, I see. So if you're in a school library is able to give the parent or guardian the information.
Yes, and when we
Yes.
shared a catalog with the school libraries, this was a problem for us because we knew we could easily be in violation. But we don't anymore, and that solved that problem for us.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mary Ellen was a librarian, so it was all fine, but the way the system was set up did not protect the privacy rights of children from our perspective.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments on this?
I was just going to say, I appreciate all the thought that went into it, and I think it's well written. And so if I may, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the confidentiality policy as approved. Oh, it's already been approved? No.
Well, it has, but it actually, this is almost 10 years ago now. It was discussed and adopted, so maybe we should, what's the word?
Sure, we can have,
Or
if
renew
everybody.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Let's renew this confidentiality policy. That's a motion.
I second it.
okay, so is there any further discussion? Does anyone else have questions of Tara or any thoughts on what we're doing here? Okay, so all those in favor of renewing the confidentiality guidelines?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay, now we're moving on to 8 and Friends of the Library update. That will
Yes.
be Barb.
I have an update and I'm thrilled, thanks to Tara and the library reopening tomorrow. We will have a book sale this Saturday, December 4th from 11 to 1. It's already set up in the community room. And since we had nothing in November, we're going to have a second book sale December 11th. And I'm thrilled because we have a lot of gnomes that Rick's sister donated to the Friends, and they will be on sale at the book sale. And Terry, you could probably explain better than I can how people can see that video. Well, if you go to the public library website, there is a link to it. And anything more on that, Tara, for the link on the video?
Oh, it's the first thing that you see when you go to our website. It's also on the library's Facebook page. We posted it earlier today. So there's 2 places you can go, or you can just go to YouTube and type in Petersburg Public Library. And it's one of 2 things on our channel. So easy to find.
So did everybody understand what Barb said? She said gnomes, you know, the little, did everybody get that?
Yeah.
Yes, they're little gnomes. I should have brought one here so I could show it, but
Wish we had a picture. They're very cute.
yes, they're very cute. And so Cindy and Roxy and I are coming tomorrow to price them.
What
Nice.
time are you gonna do that, Barb?
We are doing that at 1:30 tomorrow.
Okay, I'm gonna try and be there,
Okay,
just because.
yeah, just,
I might
that's
buy one.
fine. That's fine. And you can help sort books too if you're there. But it's nice it's in the community room because it's more spread out. There are so many DVDs, which you'll see when you look at the video, that people will not be hovering around one small table to look at all the DVDs. So I think we've done a pretty good job setting it up, and there's still more books coming in, and we will take donations. Well, starting tomorrow, people can bring them to the library.
So Barb, are you going to be able to go on Tradio or I don't know, Chris, I mean, to talk about that? Or we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Well, I think somebody needs to do it besides me. I don't think I have a good radio voice. Chris has an excellent Chris has an excellent radio voice. Tara does. Marilyn, you do. Cindy is far better than I am. So yes, that would be wonderful on Tradio.
Well, I'm just thinking because we need to make sure that people know there's going to be
Yes.
2, that the gnomes are going to be
Yes.
there, etc. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Any other thing? Does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry, Tara.
Just a thought about that. Chris always does mention it the Friday before on Tradio because I think she's usually co-host. So when you're in tomorrow, just check in with her and maybe take her in there and show her around a little bit, show her the gnomes and ask her to talk up the 2 dates. I'm sure she will if she's doing the show.
Yeah.
Good.
And if she's still here today, when the meeting's over, I'll take her in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's still here.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, sounds great. So the next item is Wednesday, January 27th is our next meeting. How does that sound for folks?
Good.
I should be here.
Okay. And as we know, it doesn't matter, except maybe at some point, we're actually going to be in the same room together again.
That would be wonderful. Yes.
So Tara, is there any chance that we could think about the Helmy Jensen room? Because it's bigger and we could be further apart.
Yes, we could do it in the Helmy Jensen room. Yeah.
Yes.
I send out the is everybody really available on the 27th about 2 weeks in advance? Someone just starts that conversation, I can go from there and we can,
Good.
probably we should just wait until it gets a little closer so we know what the situation is like.
Right, and that will be far enough after Christmas so that if there is an uptick, we'll know what's happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so I want to thank everybody. It was an excellent meeting. I'm sorry about the beeping. If it had quicker, I could have gotten a ladder, but it didn't. And so have a great rest of December, everybody. Happy holidays, and we'll see you about maybe. So do I hear a motion to?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. And I just wanted to say that was a really fun little mutual appreciation email thing we had going the other day.
Yes.
Thank you all.
That was good. Thank you. I will second your motion.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, opposed? Okay, that's great. All right, off as Sue Paulson says, what does she say now? Oh,
Onward.
something about off and
Onward.
keep going and
Onward.
onward. That's the word. Okay, good to see all you guys.
You
Happy
too.
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.